Hey everybody, welcome to the live stream. We're going to be doing some fun stuff today. So if you didn't see already in the title, we're going to be casting one of the little mini X-Wings in a pretty big little mold here, big little. So I got a couple of pieces of Burl that I've already prepared these guys. I did, the kind of standard, just pour a little bit of resin on top, different types of things. Got two pieces of those. They're going to fit into this square mold, and we're going to stick an X-Wing in the middle. So unfortunately, today seemed like I was going real smooth about my business with everything, and I didn't have a lot to do, and it just turned out every single thing that I was trying to do, like just set up the stream, it wouldn't work. And I'm like, ugh. So I'm running a little bit late today, so I apologize for that. It's, some days you get in there and it's like there's a blockage in front of you no matter where you go. So that's what was going on today. But I don't think that's going to impact the fun that we're going to have today at all. So I picked up these, I picked up a little X-Wing guy, X-Wing miniature. I got this on Amazon. I don't have a link. I forgot to go get a link to these things, but you can find them on Amazon. Just search for X-Wing miniatures. And I got this idea from Scott Wishart, and he's going to be doing like a charity fundraiser for Multiple Sclerosis, MS. And so he contacted me, asked if I'd like to help out a little bit, and I was like, yeah, sure, let's do this. And so since Scott, if you don't know who Scott is, it's Scott's Mini Wood Shop, and he is basically the master of the X-Wing spheres. Like, he is like most of the pictures that you see on Instagram or wherever, they're his. He's got it down to an art, science, and it's really awesome seeing all the cool stuff that he makes. And so I thought, for this little charity fundraiser, what I'm doing is I'm going to be making a project, then auctioning it off. And I thought, why not make an X-Wing blank? So I think that I'm most likely going to go with a sphere. I've been kind of playing around with the design that's slightly different. And I don't know which way I'm going to go with this, but I was kind of playing around, just testing some stuff. And I actually kind of like this shape of these things, but I'm not sure if I'm going to do this or a sphere. I'm still leaning towards a sphere at this point, but there's a couple different ways, so I'm undecided on the end result project. But today we're just going to cast it up and see how we can do. So if one thing I want to point out, there is a video. If you want to know how to do this, and I'm kind of following along from this video. So Alumilite actually went out to Scott's shop. I don't know how long ago it was, but they shot a video, and he shows you exactly how to make these things. Whoa, that's loud. Shush, shush. So here's the link to that video if you want to check it out. It's a really well-made video that they did. So I'll try and remember to put a link to it in the description as well. But there's that link, and it'll kind of go through how he makes them. So I got a couple of really good tips from that video, actually. So a big thank you to Scott. And Scott's right there. He's in the chat right there. It's in December, so not too long. Christina, no, you're not late. I was late, so you're right on time. So the one thing about it is, so you need to mount the X-Wing to the, well, let me stop real quick. So if you guys want any information, I put a link down in the show notes. Let's see, where do I see that? I don't know if I can see that from where I'm at. I put a link to, if you want to help support, so what Scott's doing is he's going to be cycling, but it's going to be spinning because of the COVID-19 stuff. He's going to be spinning 100 kilometers. So like, riding a bike basically, but in place. And he's going to be raising funds for MS. And this is what the big project is, the fundraiser project. And so I have a link in the show notes. If you want to go to his fundraising page, you can help donate, make a donation, straight donation to that if you want. So I want to mention that. And then for anybody that might be interested in picking up whatever I make, hopefully I'll do a good job on this. But when I get this thing done, turned and everything, I'm going to be auctioning it on my Instagram feed on my profile. And Scott probably knows, I forget exactly what the date is that this is going to be, like the due date. So I'm not sure exactly when I'm going to you know, I'm going to try and get this thing done like as soon as possible. I'm just not sure like what the dates are going to be for like the auction period yet. But that'll be, I'll let you guys know. And I'm also going to be doing a video turning this piece as well. So all the information about the auction and everything are going to be in that. That'll just be a regular video, not a live stream. I want to make sure that I have all of my focus, you know, attention on this piece so that I do a good job on it. So let's see here. So first things first, you have to figure out a way to attach the X-wing to your piece. Okay, so that's one challenge to this. Most of the rest of it, it's kind of just a hybrid blank. You just slap some wood in there and, you know, pour some resin in there. I'm doing something slightly different because we're going to be doing two pieces. These are kind of hot. I'm going to switch views because I can't hold these things in my hands because they're kind of hot. So let me switch to this other camera and kind of show you what is in my brain here. Okay, so we got a little X-wing guy. And so what I'm thinking about doing here is I got a whoops, I lost my drill bit. I got a 5x5 mold. And these guys are just going to plop in there like that. And we're going to glue a little X-wing in the middle. So one of the things that you have to kind of figure out is how to, you know, mount your X-wing in there where it'll work the best. You kind of want it to be in the center, obviously, if you're making a sphere, or even if I was going to be doing something like this, like a kind of a cylinder doohickey, you want to mount it in the middle of the blank so that you don't turn into it. And another little tip that Scott mentioned to me was you kind of want to make sure that it's large enough that you're not really encroaching on the miniature thing, because it can really distort things and look kind of funky. So you want to make sure that whatever size sphere you're doing, it's not going to be like, you really wouldn't want to make like a 1.5 inch sphere with this, you know, or 2 inch. 4 inches works really well. I'm pretty sure that's what Scott makes all of his. So just a couple little tips, and that's what this one is. Even this one's getting pretty close. I don't know. Let me flip my little viewfinder around here. Even this one's getting a little bit close to where it's starting to almost distort the look of it in some areas, but that's a 4-inch piece that I turned. All right, so what I'm going to do now, Scott's got a really good system. He uses like a super micro drill bit, and he's got some filament that's like, maybe, I don't know what exactly type of filament, but it's basically plastic stuff. And he uses like a tiny drill bit and then glues in a little piece. And his thing is, you know, he's trying to make it very not visible, the support structure. I think what I'm going to do, one thing I do want to mention is these things come, at least mine, come with this little post in the bottom. I don't know if you can see that. There's a little post down, which way am I going here? See that little plastic post? You can remove that, but one thing I do want to mention for some people that might have clear 3D printing filament, it fits perfectly in that little tube thing. So and that's actually how I mounted the other one. I had some red filament, and I knew I was going to be going with red resin, so it's still visible. But that's one of the challenges. I'm not going to really worry about that on this one. I think what I'm actually going to do is just use what comes in the kit. They have a little post somewhere. Where is that stuff? They have these little posts that come in the kit that you get. So this is 1.75 millimeter 3D printing filament. So if you could get some clear, some of that wouldn't be bad if you wanted to keep that little post. Scott actually kind of drills into the little piece and just sticks a really thin filament in there. And another thing that Scott does that I'm going to be doing something a little bit different. I'm pretty sure that he basically just sticks the wood on the bottom of his mold, and the X-wing is just sitting flat normal. This is going to be kind of sideways the way that I'm casting this, and that's another reason why I'm just going to go with the post that they give you in the kit. Which way here? I'm just not as concerned about, you know, seeing the post, but I probably don't even need to use the post. I can probably just glue this little white clear piece down in, because it's going to be pretty close in there. So I think that's what I'm going to probably do, is just kind of glue that in place, and then we'll be good to go. So I think I might do that now. let's see here. I might do it on the, this one's kind of hilly. And Scott probably has some good tips and stuff. But I think what I'm going to do is just kind of glue it in place like that. All right. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to check and see what size this hole is real quick. I want to look at one thing real quick here. Real quick, I'm gonna cut a tiny piece of this filament and just see what that. I just want to see what it looks like. So I just stuck a really tiny piece of that in there. I just want to see what this thing. I think I'm going to do that actually. That'll allow me to use a 16th inch drill bit, and then I'm actually just going to bury that. All of this extra, I'm just going to bury that into the hole in the wood, and I think that'll work pretty good. So I'm going to put this in here. Scott probably has some tips and stuff that he might be. I can't keep my eye on the chat right now because I'm kind of focusing on this, but he may be putting some good tips and stuff out there while we go. So I just want to see, I'm gonna tilt you guys down a little bit. And I'm just going to show you kind of what I'm looking at here. So the thing is, if you're going to do it sideways like this, you know, it needs to be fairly strong. And that's why I'm not really that worried about all this stuff. Yeah, that'll fit. It fits between the two pieces fine. And I'm going to bury, like I said, this whole filament piece. So let's see if we can kind of find the center of this. Just going to grab a 6-inch ruler just to kind of visually see where I'm at here. So we're looking at like right there is the center. All right. So I have a 16th inch drill bit. I'm just going to drill real quick here. This would probably be better with a force, I think I do actually have a 16th inch brad point. Hold on real quick. Brad point bit will work a lot better for this. I just got to find it if I have it. I had one. No clue what happened to it now. Huh. That's odd. Okay, so what I'm going to do is we're just going to poke it real quick. I'm just going to poke it. I already kind of made a little bit of a mark. So now I'm just going to kind of come in here and kind of start that hole real quick. I can't find my 16th inch brad point. And I'm just going to kind of freehand this. Hopefully you guys can kind of see what's going on here. Try and really hold this drill. Okay, so we got a drill hole. Perfect. Look at that. Wish I had a different color filament, but I don't. So it'll have to be what it is. I'm not that worried. It's not going to be super noticeable that it was red. Might actually look kind of cool being red. All right, so let's get this thing glued in there. I think I'm going to just use a little bit of 5-minute epoxy. I think that'll be the best way to go. You could use, you could probably use like a CA. You would really need to make sure that you wait until it has fully cured before you cast that though. And I don't know, I don't really love using CA glue with casting stuff, especially with Alumilite. Just doesn't really seem to be the best. It can work, but You could also use a UV resin. The problem is you really can't get a UV light down in there, so Again, not my first choice. I think that you're just better off going with a little bit of 5-minute epoxy instead. So let me stop and see what Scott's probably like, don't do it that way. What are you doing? Let's see if anybody. Oh yeah, he uses like super 0.75 millimeter fiber optic plastic. Yeah, I don't have any of that on hand. Yeah, no, well, so I've already tried. I already poured this one sideways, so it works. And the TIE fighters are actually heavier than this, so I'm not worried about it moving around really. I think everything will be fine, especially, you know, that's the other advantage to using like a little bit bigger filament. Like it really isn't going to go anywhere, so I'm not really that worried about it. But, you know, you can kind of see it more, you know, it's more visible. The thing is, I mean, I could fret over that, but I think in the end, it's very difficult to get something completely hidden, especially if you're trying to put something sideways like this. So I'm just not really that's not the most important part of this project, I don't think. I don't think most people are really gonna care, you know. Frankly, being able to see that inside there also, probably not gonna happen. So I think I'm going to go with clear resin. I don't think I'm going to do much of anything. I want to kind of like minimize the variables in this. I think we're just going to go for a straight clear casting. And that's it. I mean, it's going to be pretty simple. These types of projects aren't really that difficult. The setup and everything, having the right size mold and all that kind of stuff. Those are the more important parts. And then again, just to reiterate, especially for people that are kind of just joining us. So what I've used here is there's a little bit of color shift powder in there, and I painted the Burl black first. Or I might have even used like a resin that had black dye in it. So here's the one problem that the one issue that I'm a little worried about, and I'm going to do something about it and just try to make sure that it doesn't happen. What I've gotten on some pieces when I do this kind of resin painting on top of burls is sometimes you get these like clear spots that kind of show up. They're shiny things that seem to be areas where, I don't know, you didn't get a good bond, or it's, I don't know, maybe there was some air or moisture. I don't know exactly what causes it. It seems to be more prevalent on pieces where there's like a lot of resin, kind of like it's not a thin layer that you painted on. And so what I'm going to do in this case, and actually I probably should have done this already on this piece. I'm going to toss this 5-minute epoxy because I kind of forgot. What I'm going to do first is we're going to scuff this up a little bit, because ideally this would be best to do like kind of boom, 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 where you do the painting and get everything prepped, and then you cast it, you know, kind of like the same day. And this has been sitting around for many days, like weeks at this point. So this is hardened, and that's a shiny surface, which is typically not going to be a great bond with your resin. So resin kind of requires some sort of a mechanical bond. And even though we have a bunch of bumps and spikes, it's probably not going to be the most amazing, you know, bond. So what I'm actually going to do, and everybody's probably freaking out right now, but I'm going to take a brass brush and I'm going to just scuff this up. Okay. I want to kind of get something for the resin when I pour it on to grab a hold of. And this is kind of a little bit of an experiment. I did do that on the other one too, and I didn't notice any issues. But I'm going to be dulling this and putting some scratch marks in it, but it's not like it's going to be visible. You're not going to see this in the final piece. So I'm just going to kind of go over this with my brush, try and get especially all these areas that are kind of built up with a little bit deeper amount of resin that I poured, that are really shiny, and just dull it all. And hopefully we will get zero shiny spots. And I don't know, Scott might be in there. He might have something to say about this. I'm not really sure. Hey, Steve. No, there's no colors. This is just going to be kind of a demo. Just a demo. Sorry about that. Yeah, so that's the one thing that, like I said, I really have no answers as to what exactly causes the issues. I've gotten it with every type of resin, UV. It's very prevalent. That's what really happens with CA glue. And I don't exactly know what, I can't pinpoint what the exact cause is for it. So I would love to find out if somebody knows. But I think this will help. I think this is a good way to kind of help out. And another thing that I'm also going to do to kind of, as another step to try and avoid that, is I'm actually going to paint on a coating of clear before we begin. A very thin coat of clear. Let it kind of, firm up. We're not going to, pressurize it or anything like that, but we're just going to paint over this surface with a thin coat and like actually push it onto the surface. Because, perhaps another thought that went through my head about the kind of bonding issue, the shiny spots that kind of pop up. I don't know if I have a good example that I can show you guys of what exactly I'm talking about. But I was thinking, well, maybe what's happening is that you just need to kind of force the resin onto the surface. Maybe there's like a, what do they call that? Stone Coat Countertops talks about it, and they use a chop brush to actually put it, surface tension. That's the term that I'm thinking of. When they're doing their countertop pours, they actually take a big bristled brush and they chop the stuff down so that you reduce the surface tension and it lays flat. So I don't know. I'm grasping at straws because I've been dealing with this for years and I really have no answer as to what exactly is going on. So I'm just going to take every step that I can possibly think of that's to try and minimize that issue, because I really don't like the shiny spots. No, we're not going to be painting this. This is already done. This is how I wanted it. We're just going to be pouring the blank today. I know it's not as interactive and fun, but I needed to get this project going, and I figured, why not bring you guys along? We need to get the blank made so that I can get it turned, get a video made, and we can get this thing up on the auction block. Okay, so that is a lot more dull. So I'm going to call that good. Doesn't look bad or anything though. It's not like it's, terrible looking. Same thing with this one. Just going to go over it. Try and get some of these deeper spots. Some of these really deep valleys may be kind of tough to get the bristles on. A sander. A belt sander. I don't want to use a belt sander on this. It'll remove all of the work that I've done. I do have some Scotch-Brite pads. That could help. I don't know. Like I said, let me stop and see. Yeah, CA is terrible. I'm not sure. Yeah, the painted resin stuff is fun, but like I said, you really run the risk of these shiny things. Like, it's hit or miss. And I think the best way to go is to paint it on with, and the one thing that I've found, I've talked to other people that make this type of stuff. I think they just use the same exact resin, pour it on. You can do multiple layers of it, let it run around, and then I think that the one thing I haven't asked other people specifically was whether they immediately, like the same day, once that stuff is kind of set up, pour it. But I have a feeling that is probably what people are doing, and I think that at that point you're not going to get any kind of weird bonding issue, because it's kind of like pouring multiple layers. You really don't even need to scuff up the top. Like if you do a 2-pour thing, you know, with Alumilite. I was making those little, I was trying to get those dice to suspend. You really don't even need to scuff the top if you pour it immediately, that second layer. And so I think that's really the best way to go. The problem was I just couldn't get this done like right away. I had some time to kind of do this a while ago, poured all this stuff on it and then let it sit. So I would recommend do everything right away, and you're probably going to avoid most of those kind of shiny spot issues. And bare wood, you know, that's another way to go. I mean, at that point, but you still kind of need to, you still want to kind of scuff the surface and make sure that the surface is clean. So, you know, I don't know if Scott does it, but I know like Heath Knuckles would always take a toothbrush or a wire brush to his Burl caps in his videos. I usually do once I get everything finished up. Dye stabilized wood, especially stabilized wood, I'll kind of clean off the top surface just to make sure there's no dried crusties, cactus juice, and all that stuff. So the problem is I'm really not going to be able to get down into these grooves. So I think we're just going to have to kind of call it quits. We got everything as good as I can get it. So first things first, let's get a quick coat of Alumilite clear on this. I wish I had regular, like Alumilite clear, like the regular set, but I don't. So we're just gonna go for it. We may run the risk of having some white haze. I would recommend if you're gonna paint a thin coat of it on, probably best to use the regular set Alumilite. But realistically, I've done this before and actually I haven't had any problems. We're gonna add a little extra part B and hopefully everything will go good. And then we're also immediately, you know, once that's just not runny, we're gonna immediately cast this in full resin. So hopefully that made some sense. So I'm gonna get, let's see here. I'm gonna switch to that other view with the dust. That's a good point, man. Oh, that's not the right thing. There we go. I'm going to go over and blow these guys off. Thank you for reminding me. Probably have a little bit of dust going on. That's one of the hardest things on clear castings. It's keeping dust, you know, dust from the mold gets all over. And then especially if you're sanding and doing stuff like this. All right, so we got those blown off. I'm actually going to toss these guys back in the oven. Get the surface kind of warmed up. But I have a little cup here. We're just going to add. So we'll get going on all the stuff. Once we get this done, everything will go pretty quick here. You just get some stuff out of the way. And I'm not going to warm up my mold. It barely would fit in there, and I need to get these things. I want the wood. I want to make sure that I keep moisture away from that stuff. So I'm just not going to worry about it. If we get a little bit of a rounded corner here and there, I'm really not going to worry about it. We're making a sphere anyway. There is a little bit of some dust particles down in this thing. I'm going to go blow it out while we're thinking about it. I already wiped this thing down with denatured alcohol, all the surfaces. So we've got it as good as it'll get. So I've zeroed my scale out. We're just going to go with, I'm just going to mix up like 20 grams, I think. So 10 grams of part A. That might have been more. No, 9. So we're at 10. And what I'm going to do is we're going to add 11 grams of part B to this mixture. That's a pretty heavy amount of B compared to A, but in this case, I think it's okay. I don't think we're not going to have any problems with that. And it will also help to kind of make sure that we don't get any blushing in the resin. We're at 10. 10.9, close enough. All right, so I'm just going to mix this up. And I'm just going to paint this on, like I said. We're just going to kind of literally get a paintbrush and just paint this stuff onto the surface there. And again, I'm going with two theories. I have no clue what the actual answer is, but my two theories are surface tension between the resin and the surface, and you know, it being shiny, smooth surface, and the resin not really wanting to stick to it. Those are the two things that I'm trying to avoid. So we scuffed up the surface as best we could to try and eliminate, you know, that issue. And then the second thing that we're going to be doing is try to eliminate surface tension immediately with having that kind of old, you know, not old, but you know, fully cured resin, hardened. We're gonna paint on a layer, a really thin layer, and then that hopefully will kind of reduce any surface tension, and then we'll just pour the full bulk on afterwards. And another thing I can do is actually just use some of this Alumilite to glue in our X-wing on that thing. That'll work just as well too. Okay, so we'll just do one at a time here. I got some new paint brushes off of Amazon. I'm really sick and tired of these acid brushes. They are the worst thing if you're trying to paint stuff on, like glues, because the bristles just fall right out. So I really highly recommend not using those ever for anything. So I got some super cheap artist brushes, and they're basically just kind of disposable. So we're just going to kind of paint this on, and I want to work it into the surface, like I said, and just put a layer of resin on first. And this is kind of an experiment, so we'll have to kind of see how this goes. I don't know, you know, I guess, but I don't think that there's really I don't think we're going to have any issues. It's not going to cause any problems. I don't know if it's going to solve the problem that I'm hoping it will solve. Now I may be kind of causing some air bubbles. I'm not sure. So I'm doing this kind of fast, but probably hit this with a little bit of a torch before I'm all through. Just to kind of pop any small bubbles that may have formed. We're experimenting. We're just trying things out, seeing how it goes. Worst case scenario, if this turns into a gigantic failure, then I'll be redoing. We'll do something different for the auction. I don't think that's going to happen, though. I think we'll be okay. What do you guys think? So we should have, I don't know, it's pretty warm in the shop again, but we should have a good 15 minutes, I would say, with this little amount of resin, this thin, before it really starts kind of setting up on me. So I should be able to get both of these things painted in plenty of time and torched. So I don't know. I think that's probably pretty good. I don't know if I hit every single possible surface, but we got the majority of all this stuff, at least kind of a little coat. Don't really have to worry so much about the edges. That's all going to get turned away anyway. So, and then this one's going to be a lot easier to, you know, there's less of those deep ridges in this one. So I'm going to kind of know where I've painted on. This brush is working great. Bristles aren't falling out. Makes my life a lot easier. There's a ton of different little cheap artist brushes available on Amazon, and probably like your Michaels and all that stuff. Not too bad. And really, you could technically clean them up with acetone as long as you get it before the resin sets up on you. And you could reuse these guys, you know. Okay, so I think that I've pretty well covered every surface here. Let me just get a couple little areas here and there. And I think I'm going to I think I'm just going to use this resin to glue our little X-Wing guy in right now. Where'd the hole go? So that ought to work pretty well. We'll let that resin set up on it. I think what I'm going to do, let's see here. I think what I'm going to do is actually just hit it with I got a torch. I'm going to be very careful. I know that I just stuck an X-Wing in, but it's not going to set up. I can take it out real quick. So I'm just going to hit it with a torch very lightly. Kind of go over it real quick just to kind of get rid of any bubbles that might have, little micro bubbles that might be on there. Okay, so that ought to be good. Put this guy back. We'll see how we do. I don't know. We're in uncharted territory, guys. I mean, I have done one similar like this, but that's it. All right, so I think I'm actually just going to pop this in the oven. I don't know about the X-Wing miniature. I don't know about this one. I think I might leave this one out, but we'll pop that other one in the oven for now. And we're going to kind of wait until this stuff starts to set up a little bit. We could probably start casting it soon. But I need to wait for this X-Wing to set up, and I also don't just want all this stuff to run off because it's not going to be sitting flat. So we got a couple seconds here. Let's see here. See what's happening. Yeah, you can maybe use some UV resin. I don't think Scott does that. I'm not going to be using any mold release on it. This is all fresh, like brand new HDPE, and Alumilite clear doesn't really stick to molds. If you were using epoxy, a lot of epoxies tend to stick more, so you might maybe think about some sort of. That's pretty centered actually. Maybe if I put it like this, it's pretty well centered, pretty close. Kind of like it like that. Anyway, it's pretty centered. That's pretty close to the center, guys. It's centered enough. This is a 5-inch sphere, so it's not even going to be close when I turn it. You know, not worried at all. Okay, so let's see what else is happening here. That might be a different vid to cast it. No, we're going to get this cast today. This is only going to take a couple seconds to kind of let it think about what it's done. Frankly, like I said, I can stick this in and we could cast this right now. But even the X-Wing probably isn't even going to fall out if I did that. You know, I mean, it's not going anywhere. But we'll give it a couple seconds for the resin to thicken up a little bit, and then we'll go. Now, the one thing that I probably do recommend, if you're going to cast something like this sideways, even though we're gluing it in and doing all this stuff, I would, you really want to kind of pour your resin kind of slowly and not make it like, don't splash it straight onto the X-wing. Like kind of pour it at the bottom and let it kind of slowly fill up. And once it starts getting to the little X-wing thing, let it kind of wrap around that slowly, just to make sure it doesn't go anywhere. Because the worst thing that can happen is the X-wing falls off in the middle of you casting it, or moves, or something like that's what you really don't want. So take every step possible when you're actually pouring the resin in there to keep that little thing in place. Yeah, I think the camera angle. Mr. Spock is going to be mad. I know. I wish they had some cool Enterprise things. So in the meantime, while we're waiting for this to do something, let me pull out just for anybody that didn't see these last time. So we cast some of that packing material on the last one, and these things turned out pretty wicked. The packing material isn't like super evident. It's kind of like really, really muted. If you're looking for it, you can see it. There's little brown things in there. But what it did was, man, these color swirls are ridiculous because it kind of acted like a I don't even know, like when you poured the resin in there, it funneled it through all those little holes. So just in case for anybody that doesn't know what we did, this was what we cast. And it was really cool. I really think that, like I said, I think on a transparent or very translucent blank, you may get a lot more of the kind of patterning in blanks of this stuff. But I think what it really did was there's little tiny patterns that emerge that you can kind of see. They're very, muted. But if you really look at it, there are some patterns in here that you can see the packing material, but it also distributes the resin when you're pouring it into the mold. Really cool. Like, you get like a really cool kind of color swirl mix. So those turned out pretty good. And then I still haven't cut up the 2-inch blank, the square one. And then we did one that had some clear. This was a base clear. And then we poured some, I don't know what colors exactly, obviously green. I think we maybe had some blood reds and then some purple speckles. Oh, and some green, I think maybe. Yeah, I said that already. So I'm not sure what to expect. I think it's actually going to be even cooler on the inside because I think some of these opaque colors are kind of taking up the outside. I think it's going to be more interspersed. And then we did like a blue and green and silver, I want to say, something like that. But on this one, you can see a lot, some more of the actual packing material patterning. Like I said, it doesn't stick out. It's not going to be kind of super crazy, but you're going to get some kind of patterning in there. And again, we got, I think, a pretty interesting mix of colors. You can see it like almost feathering down here. And this is the bottom of the mold. So I'm curious to see what the inside of this thing looks like. Hopefully, when we cut off, I'm going to cut off the edges, the sides. Hopefully, it'll actually become a little bit more evident what it's really looking like on the inside, and we won't have to like wait till I turn it. And then the last thing I want to share, this video is coming out Sunday. So this is some new hardware, a new kit that Stainless Bottle Stoppers is coming out with. It's a brass hammer kit, and be right back. They're coming out with 2 sizes. I decided I had a nice big chunk of die stabilized wood, so I went for the big one on that one. But they also have a small brass mallet. These are coming out Labor Day weekend, so I'm guessing not this weekend, but next weekend. I don't know exactly what day yet. Maybe Friday. I'm not sure. I'll find out though, and I'll let you guys know. So I'm pretty excited about that. And that video is going to be kind of a little test. I didn't put any music in it. I wanted to get feedback from you guys. So make sure to watch that and let me know what you think of the video. If you like the way I usually do it with some little video and music clips, or if you like that better. There's your glitter, Jen. Yeah. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of poke around at the edge of this and see. Yeah, so it's tacky at this point. So I think that we can probably get going here. I think we can start getting things prepped. I'm going to wait on that piece, but I can definitely toss this in. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to hit it with a little bit of hot glue. So in the meantime, what I'm going to do real quick, I don't think that the heat of my oven is going to melt the X-Wing if we just put it in there for a little bit. All right, so we're just going to put that in there, warm it up. And that's, again, to just kind of make sure that, you know, we don't get any surface moisture on there. And to kind of give that Alumilite a little bit of heat for the cure. My gloves. So we're going to hot glue those guys in place. So let me get my glue gun out and plugged in. I'm going to kind of keep an eye on that X-Wing, but should be all right. No, I'm not going to use any mold release. It'll pop free just fine. Mold release, like if I was casting this in PVC, then yes, no question. Otherwise, you're probably going to be turning off the PVC. It just doesn't come out of pipes like that. But this thing, I can disassemble the whole thing. It'll be fine. It's not necessary. You may have some more problems with if you were using an epoxy product. Typically, epoxies tend to stick to molds a lot more. Alumilite clear, that's another reason why I really like using it, because it's really not hard on molds. I don't really use too much, you know, when I do like the pen blanks, because I make a ton of them using molds over and over and over again. I don't really use a lot of mold release. I do a little bit, you know, but I mean, I just barely hit it just to make sure that it just falls out of the mold, basically. Yeah, if you have, you know, like fresh, brand new HDPE, the smooth stuff, I mean, most blanks will come right out. Maybe like a little bit of a tap on it or something, but, you know, now this thing, it's not going to fall out of this thing. I'm going to have to take the whole thing apart probably, maybe tap the sides off, but we should be fine. It's not going to, it is not necessary in this case. Yeah, it's urethane. Urethanes typically are a little bit easier on molds. They have other things that, you know, urethanes are more sensitive to moisture though. So like there's always give and take. I mean, there is no perfect resin for every type of person and situation, you know. I like Alumilite Clear Slow Set for a number of reasons. It works perfect for me. But you know, you can get the same results with pretty much any resin. Obviously, because there's a lot of people that use epoxies, and in some cases epoxies are better. Like if I need a lot of working time, I like Alumilite Clear Slow Set because it's 12 minutes of working time. That's perfect for me to get. I don't want to wait 45 minutes before I pour to get color swirls or keep colors separated. I like 12 minutes. That's perfect. But there's some things, like if you're making micarta, I don't really recommend using Alumilite Clear Slow Set. 12 minutes is not enough. You know, at that point, you want something that's got 45 minutes to an hour so that you got plenty of time for it to, you know, before it sets up on you. Okay, so nothing special here. I'm just going to drop these little things. I'm just going to put a kind of a thing all over the place here just to make sure that it kind of stays in place. I didn't do that very awesome. But there we go. That ought to be good. And then I got to be kind of careful with this guy. Make sure that our X-Wing doesn't go anywhere. Just kind of, yeah, it's pretty solid right there. So let's see here. Does it matter? I don't think it really matters. That thing's pretty flat, this piece, so it's not like putting the other one in one way is going to be a whole lot better than another way. So I just got me some glue all over there. And I'm going to try to carefully put this thing down. Ooh, look at that. I used my glue to help me slow it down even. So we got our mold, guys. I'm not gonna move this around too much. let me clean my gloves off, and then I'm gonna reorient the camera so you guys can see down in there. But it worked so far. Everything's going as planned. Look at that. Look at that guy. He's in there. Okay, now let's talk about how much resin do I need, because I have absolutely no clue. Now, I can go on Alumilite's website and they have a volume calculator. All right, so I'm actually going to switch. I have a shot of, let's see, I think I do. Real quick, let me open up Alumilite's website. Let me just see what does this look like? Desktop. There we go. So we're at Alumilite's website, and under Learn, there's the volume calculator. Okay? And so what we can do is we can put in under the part volume. This is a 5x5, oops, not 8, 5x5x5 box. You hit calculate, and it says that I need 69 ounces. And that would be for me to fill up the entire box, like if there was no wood in there. So let's go back to this view. Let me actually get rid of myself. There's really mostly wood in there, you know, I mean, there's not that much. So one way that you could go is, before we did any of this stuff, I could have put these two pieces in here and we could have filled this void up with rice, dumped that out, and figured out in a cup how much resin is in there. I really don't want to mess with that personally. I'm more willing to just mix up more resin than I need. So let's go back to the website here. So 69.25 fluid ounces. I'm going to write that down. 69 ounces. Just going to make a note of that. And looking at our wood,